Well, a pleasant good evening to all around the world, all especially here in Canada and wherever you're tuning in from. My name is DJ Wiz, and we just want to thank you all for tuning in to the Keep6ix launch Gangs for Tuition. I am your host here. I want you all to know that this is not scripted, so any bloopers that you get, well, you just get them. So that's just how it's got to be. Listen, we also have in the room, we have an excellent criminal defense lawyer by her name is Jordana Goldlist. We have from the T.R.A.P. We have Tyler Murphy. We have the artist Jah Can, Keep6ix representative Chen. We also have extraordinaire and our friend for life, Mr. Kadeen Reid. We also from CureTV, Ainsworth, slowly. Big shout outs to Mr. Richard Miller for getting the crew together. I'd like to say hello to everybody. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I want. Everybody to scream at once because that's what we are. One crew. That's what it is. That's what it is. One crew, one crew. So listen, this is Gangs for Tuition. It's a movement that has started and is going to hopefully reach the world. This is our aim. This is our goal. And many of you and all have attributes to this, and you're really for being here. I want to thank you because you're involved in trying to better not only your life but someone else's life. So I really want to thank you all for being a part of this. I'm going to start off with, of course, it's non-scripted questions, and I'll reach out to every individual. But first, I want to know who everybody is, and what everybody's part in this is. So, Jordana, I'm gonna ask you first to, intro yourself and let them know who you are and what you're about.
Sure. My name is Jordana Goldlist. I'm the owner of JHG Criminal Law, which is a criminal defense firm. It's based out of downtown Toronto, but I have cases throughout Southern Ontario with a focus on high-risk criminal litigation. So murder, guns, drugs, that's primarily my practice. When I'm not being a lawyer, I'm a youth mentor with Covenant House and guest speaker through several outreach organizations, all in the hopes of educating people on what I consider to be the trap of the criminal justice system. It's something that I experienced personally as a youth and was able to escape. And it's something that I see over and over again in my practice as a defense lawyer. And so I try to take that information and teach, young people especially about ways in which the justice system targets people and keeps them stuck. And so I think youth outreach is extremely important, and it's how I became involved with Keep6ix. I want to say 3 years ago, started speaking on panels about what my experience in organization has been, with a view to helping people either escape the criminal justice system or avoid it completely.
Thank you. And later on in the show, we're going to ask how much Richard bothers you and pressures you to keep going in this movement. Okay. A little bit later on in the show. All right. We're going to also talk to Jah Can, who's an artist. Jah Can, tell the people who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, man, this is Jah Can music, and it was about to put positive music, into the youths, them ears, into the street, because the violence and the crime, we can't always see it and leave it alone, So when I can try to put that positive vibration, in my songs and all of that, so the younger generation, they can just listen to positive music, probably that can help. And I still have to give thanks to Keep6ix, what helped me to really push my positivity, So it's just all about positive music, trying to help build the community, same way and have a better world. I don't think I can do it alone, but I'm putting my part,
Yes. All right. Enough respect. Kareem Reid, how you doing?
Let me just correct that off the jump. Kadeen Reid.
Listen, I apologize. Kadeem.
No problem.
Kadeem, did I say it correctly now?
Yes, brother.
I apologize. No problem,
my friend. So, for me, I got involved with Keep6ix when I was actually incarcerated.
Yeah.
So it's deep for me. They've definitely been there throughout my journey. They've definitely helped me in a lot of ways, and here I am today. Thanks, Richard.
Paying it back, paying it back.
Paying it back, paying it back.
All good. It's all good. I appreciate that you're here. Rachel, Chen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm here because this is what we got to do.
Yes. Thank you for hosting, and I want to thank everybody for being on here with us to celebrate this launch. I'm Rachel. I am the Director of Programs and Community Initiatives for Keep6ix. So I've worked very closely when it came to developing the program, facilitating, working with a lot of our community partners, as well as the individuals that are going through the program, and really just being able to be an advocate for those that need wraparound support and resources that they may not normally have access to.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being here. Ainsworth. How you doing, Ainsworth?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm right.
Nice. So thank you, Richard, for working with me since the first time I met you. My name's Ainsworth, slowly for your viewers and everybody else out there. And I think it's amazing, and congratulations on the success in launching this program. I've seen you guys from the back end work really hard at it, and I think it's amazing. So my part in all of this, since I met Richard, is always to bring an education platform that would make it easier for those that are having issues in terms of going to school, working, so they can build their skills. So in doing that over the year of this pandemic, we created so that it could become online and could cover a lot more resources and a lot more education. It could cover the trades. And it's amazing for what we do in terms of delivering that education. So just bringing that education platform to this programming. It's called Keep6ix.com. It's an online platform. I think it's an amazing platform, and it can really help in helping the clients within this program achieve success. And that's the part that CureTV would like to play in all of this. So congratulations again, and thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for being here. Last but not least, of course, we have Mr. Tyler Murphy. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
There you go. All right, Tyler, how are you, all up involved in this?
Good. So yeah, I've been with Keep6ix now. I've known Richard for about 3 years, and my part in the Gangs for Tuition program is we implement my personal program with T.R.A.P program, Transition and Recidivism Action Plan, and this is a uniquely designed program to address very specific needs of people trying to exit either a gang lifestyle or a criminal lifestyle or even just an antisocial lifestyle, to help provide them with the skills and the knowledge to make that transition. Address things such as like institutionalization, PTSD, trauma, anger management, imposter syndrome. We discuss pathways to education, professional communications, and really just a whole gamut of situations that people trying to transition out of that lifestyle find themselves in. So I help to prepare them to face that and give them the tools and skills to navigate it and hopefully come out successful.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me.
So listen, what I want to make sure the viewers and, of course, everybody around the world tuning in is to get the understanding and the perspective of how each individual sees these things, how each individual interprets what's going on around them in the world, however they feel. So I want the realness. So there's questions that's going to be asked, and they could be asked to each and every one of you. And I'm sure each and every one of you have a different perspective and a different view. And that's what I want. And I hope that you let the listeners and those people understand. So I'm going to start with this in a very simple question. And I want you to take it from a level of what you think and what you feel. And what I want to ask first is, what is a gang to you, Tyler? What is a gang?
To me, a gang is a label. Really, that's all. That's all a gang is to me, is a label. It's been thrown around and used in so many different contexts. Groups of friends are labels as a gang. 2 or 3 guys hanging out together in a park have been labeled as a gang. To me, it's a negative label that's being placed on people by law enforcement and by corrections, whether that's on their own criminal record or even as far as labeling people a gang member on their Otis record inside of the institution. That doesn't go away with a record suspension or a pardon. So to me, it's a negative label.
Okay. Jordana.
Yes. So I agree that it's a negative label, but I think it's more than that. I look at it through the lens of the way the criminal justice system treats gangs as opposed to society at large. And it's really, in the eyes of the criminal justice system, just a group of criminals. And one of the messages that I try to send through my speaks is that, the label criminal is put on people in an effort to describe character, and it isn't. A criminal is just someone who is committing a crime, and that's not a reflection of their character as a person. And once you separate those two constructs, you realize that, grouping people together in a gang based on what they do is not about who they are. And if we can start as a society to accept that reality and break down the construct, then what the message that we send to people who have been labeled as being in a gang or quote unquote criminals, as though that's a character, is that no, it's not a characteristic, it's a behavior. And like all behaviors, that can change if you want it to. And so that's some of the message that I try to send, and why I really love the work that Keep6ix does, is because it's trying to change that narrative and give people an alternative to what was, considered gang life. It's not for life unless you choose it to be.
Okay. All right. Jah Can, what is a gang in your view? Can Jah Can hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. You're not hearing me clearly?
Yeah, we're hearing you now.
Yeah, man. So I'm saying a gang. I really agree with what Tyler was saying, because a gang, it can classify as more than one thing, because gang is bad, and you have another thing where they call gang that it's a good gang. You understand? So you have violent gang, and people who in gangs, a real violent gang, your name can just call. You don't even have to do the crime. You understand? So I would say gang, it's a negative thing, same way, even though you can classify it as more than one meaning.
Okay.
Same way, But it's not really a positive thing, when it comes on to gang.
All right. I like that perspective, so I'm going to come back to it in a little bit. Ainsworth, what's your answer to this?
A gang. So you can hear me well?
Yes.
I think a gang is just a word. Personally, I look at it, and then how you take it, interpret it, the word, and because of how it's stretched, it's one word. A gang, gang, gang. The hip hop songs are hot with gang, gang, gang. But a group of friends could be a gang, but it's just a positive. Could be a gang of lawyers, could be a gang of doctors, could be. But when there's a spin on it, as we could say there's a media, there's all this other stuff with it. There's a spin. So when they say gangs, they know that sells. They know there's money, movies, whatever. So it's an interpretation. But I think because I don't think we're going to get rid of the word, and then I guess it's where. Just like Jordana says, like, what lens are you looking at it as, And if you look at gangs right now, it's more like it's ads. It's driving ads. It's driving a lot of things, So to me, it's interpretation.
Okay. Rachel, when you're out there, you've been a member of Keep6ix. What does gang mean to you?
So I'm probably going to echo the words of quite a few of the individuals that are on here. So to me, a gang is really just a group of individuals. What the perspective in which you look at it, some may look at it from a negative perspective, but there's others who you could be organizing plans. You're having plans with someone and you'll say, hey, I'm going to call the gang. And that could be, it's just a group of friends, right? And that's what I think a lot of dialogue comes around. There's a lot of negative connotations when it comes to certain words and what's associated with them, the stigmas that are associated with them. And that's sort of one of the barriers that we want to overcome in terms of what people's thinking or ideologies are based on certain words that are being used to describe groups of individuals.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Kadeen.
For me, the word gang pretty much means like a group of people, 2 or more people, literally. That embodies a gang. But obviously, there's narratives that are associated to that word, especially to me in marginalized communities. Like that word gang. If you go to Bridal Path, let's say, possibly, and you use that word gang outside, it's probably you're going to see like, a couple people going on a bike ride or something. But if you go to, let's say, Jane and Finch and you use the word gang, you're going to think violence. You're going to think a whole bunch of things because you're now in a marginalized area. So that's what I think.
Did we lose Wiz?
I think we lost our.
Oh, there we are.
There he is.
Blooper.
I told you this is unscripted. This is unscripted. Unscripted.
Oh, man.
My apologies. My apologies. But I get what you're saying though, Kadeem. I got most of what you're saying. At this end, the reason I started with this is because the title of our launch, and I want people to understand what the variosity of gang means. And gang, if you looked up, if people just wanted to Google, the first thing that comes up, do you know, is an organized group of criminals. That's the first thing that comes up when, boom, you pop in Google and you type the word gang. And then it gives you some more direct, different meanings of positivity, which is, it's kind of, the reason I'm upset about that is because I think gangs, you may have a good group of people that are a gang. They're good guys. They're good females. They're good friendship. It's a gang of people. So I took offense to that, the organized group of criminals. But, as you could state, it has various meanings. We all have a part to play in the society, and we're all doing this to better this generation, to better the next generation. Tyler, what do you think is the hardest part of T.R.A.P, of T.R.A.P?
The hardest part of like facilitating the program, or I'm not sure what you mean.
All right. So the hardest part of getting people to lock into your program.
It's just that initial step of signing up. I find once the participants are in the program, it's like a surprise to them how much they feel that it really speaks to them. It's really just the process of signing up, of taking that leap, of identifying that maybe you can't do it on your own and you need some type of help, and you're trying to connect with somebody that like really understands. Mm-hmm. I find that's like what the hardest thing is that first step of showing up, of actually like coming to the program and participating in the program, and just taking that leap. And then once they're in the program, I don't find it hard to keep everyone's attention and keep participation up, but it's really just that first step of like taking that leap forward to change your life, where you're reaching out for help and accepting help from somebody.
And I mean, just signing up for T.R.A.P is a step in the right direction, is it not?
Yes, definitely. Most definitely it is. And it's called the T.R.A.P program. I use that acronym because it's such a known word, and it has, similar to gang, it has the negative connotation towards it. So I like to use the word T.R.A.P and then have a positive spin on it. It's a word that's frequently used in the community and just in society in general today. So I wanted to kind of use that play on words of a word that was generally considered negative, and now has a positive meaning to it.
Okay, appreciate that. Ainsworth, what's the most difficult part of your world and getting the public instituted in what you do?
The difficult side of it. Nice. I don't know. So the difficult side of what I do would be more of developing, would be more the hard technology side of it. It would be more idea spinning so that we could make it easily accessible for everyone to have education. And so in a sense, going through maybe some hardships, it just feels like that's part of the process to me. So try to, so I mean, there's moments where you, of course, you want to be bigger than what you are, so you can serve more people. Is maybe the difficult side that drives with me the passion to deliver what I want to deliver, to help more people, and trying to do it by tomorrow. So that's more times is just that may be the difficult side. But in time, which I've kind of learned to kind of master a little bit more as we go, is to things will happen in time. And so now is like the perfect time, and so that would be the difficult side of it for me. It's a good question, kind of caught me off guard, but
that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Rachel, you're a really heavy behind the scenes of Keep6ix. I think you do so much for Keep6ix. I mean, you're there everywhere. I tend to mix and mingle up with Richard or anybody else for the Keep6ix. Rachel somewhere taking a note, using flashcards, telling me what to do, moving around. But what do you see as the most difficult side of Keep6ix in the public forum?
So one, I think a lot of it comes down to trust. Be it we have a lot of individuals who may be reaching out from inside because they have parole hearings coming up, or they're working on their post-release plan. And one of the big things is really developing that level of trust and engagement as well, in terms of it not just being something that's a program that you're going to say, I'm going to do so that I have a better chance of being released on parole. But when they're able to really see, and I think Tyler mentioned this as well, really be able to see that it is something that they need. And it's not just a program where they're coming and they're sitting down and they're going to be bored for two hours out of their mind. It's something where they're actively engaged, where they're looking forward to the next week. And I think that's something that Kadeen can speak to as well, in terms of individuals now, after they've gone through the program, it's like, well, what do we do now? But first, that initial level of building that level of trust with these individuals, and also for them understanding that we're also ensuring we understand the need for privacy and confidentiality in terms of the conversations that are had, and ensuring that it's a safe space for them to be able to feel free to open up as need be.
Okay. Thanks. Listen, Jordana, I want you to take Richard's point of view out of it. We know he is the most difficult part of this, but take him out for a second. And you have an incredible amount of pressure on you, especially, I've never been a lawyer, but I've had a lawyer, so I know. But, the pressure that is on you, what's the difficult side of all of this, seeing when you have a client and it's gang affiliated maybe, or whatever, of course you do murder, weapons, whatever the case may be. What's the most difficult thing that you have bestowed upon you?
So, I mean, I think the most difficult scenarios are when, I've got a client who's facing these labeled a lifetime career criminal, labeled a gang member, labeled violent. And my cases typically take, 2 to 3 years because of the nature of the case. And so during that time, I get to know the client on a personal level and appreciate that there's so much more to them than the labels that have been bestowed on them. And I'm fighting against that. I'm fighting, the system as I fight for the client. And one of the most difficult things, you asked some of the other people what it was like in terms of within society to be doing the job you're doing. Sometimes the hardest part of my job isn't even about the job, but constantly facing the questions of how do you defend those people and trying to explain that those people are actually really good people in shitty circumstances or without the tools and resources to make better choices. And so it's fighting against those labels and fighting, what seems like an uphill battle with clients, who often come to me after being in the system for years, sometimes decades, and who have been defeated by the system, right? They believe that there's no way they can win. And so sometimes I'm trying to just convince them that the fight is worthwhile. And all it takes is one win for them to recognize, wait a second, there is more to this than, what I've been sort of pigeonholed into believing. Yeah. So I think that's the hardest thing that I do, on a daily basis.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even see that perspective come in. So thanks for that. I didn't see it. You know, Kadeen, I don't want to, bring you back, but because of the realness of this and because of how real of a person I am, and I like to be around real people, and I think we all hear real people, I have to ask you, sitting in when you're incarcerated and you're sitting there and you're thinking back and you're like, you know, what happened, what you went through, what you're going through, what hit you at the difficult, what was the difficulty in this? What was going through your mind?
So for me, the most difficult part was I was actually shot, and then 48 hours later, I was jailed. So it's like I had to deal with almost, I would call it several different traumas at one time. And that was the most difficult, that was the most psychological difficult thing I've ever experienced, because having to go through the trauma of being shot, my family there, and then being incarcerated, in a nutshell, and just having to sit there in jail to think about that, it wasn't nice. So for me, that was the most difficult thing that I faced.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Listen, thank God you're here and you're alive, and you're able to make that change. And I think by you being here, you're setting that for precedent for a lot of people who are incarcerated, or somebody who knows somebody who's incarcerated, that it could happen, that people can change. It's not everybody's labeled, So kudos for you for taking this step forward and being a part of Keep6ix and the movement. Kudos for you for that, right? Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Really appreciate that. I want to go to Tyler again, and Tyler, I want to know, systematic racism or just racism in general is a thing out there now. How difficult does that play in the form of what you do and how people perceive things, around you?
It's unfortunate that it is. It's real. Racism is real, and I am very aware that how my experience in the world is different than a lot of people, and very different from that of a black man or somebody of color. But I'm aware of how it is, and I see how people are treated differently. And it is what it is. It's here. There's no denying it. There's no denying it that, racism is big in Canada. It is. It's not something that we don't experience. It's not something that is like disproportionately affecting a certain group of people when it comes to things like just carding and police interactions. It affects a certain group of people more than others. There's no denying it. There's no way around it. I'm not ignorant to the fact that that's what it is, and I try and help everybody through the program find ways to even just to deal with those type of interactions, even specifically with police. How to deal with police. There's a lot of racism involved in police interactions, and that's something that I try and equip my participants to prepare for, and ways to de-escalate situations without losing yourself either, because you can't just let it happen. You can't just let people walk over you. It doesn't matter what position they're in. There's a way to stand up for yourself and be assertive while still being respectful. without putting yourself at further risk. And I try and equip them to be able to discern how to handle that situation. And, you know, if it looks like it's really against you, and you know, there's a time and a place for it. And sometimes you may need to like be quiet about it during a police interaction. It may not be the time to address it with the same officer that's the one who's actually perpetuating the racism.
Right.
You're not going to win trying to explain it to him. So really just trying to equip people on like ways to deal with it, ways to navigate it, avenues to complain, and other ways to go about it other than violence.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Listen, thank you for that. Jordana, I'm not going to ask you if. I'm not going to ask you if. I'm going to ask you, how bad is it? I mean, we're on the outside looking in. You're actually in the courtrooms. You're actually firsthand seeing police, judges, other lawyers. How bad is racism? Are we seeing just a little piece of it, a brunt of it? Are we missing a lot? What's going on?
No, it's bad. It's bad all around. It's really bad in some cities as opposed to other cities. I right now have 3 cases where I'm challenging a police arrest for racial profiling out of the Midland Aurelia area. It's horrible. It's so overt that I'm waiting on judgment right now for a case where the officer actually admitted that he began a criminal investigation into my client because he was a black man driving into Midland at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And could not appreciate that was racial profiling. He paid for gas, he stopped for gas, paid for gas, no issues, but because he was a black man driving through Midland, he was flagged for criminal activity. And I was able to tease that out during the course of 7 days of cross-examination with the entire force testifying. So it is systematic, it is overt. It's so bad that they don't even appreciate that it's bad, right? To have an officer admit, well, he was a black man driving into Welland at 2:00 in the morning, and so I followed him and investigated him for a criminal offense, and just be that open about it shows how deeply entrenched racism is, because they don't even think they're doing anything wrong. And I'm hoping for a scathing judgment. I'm set to receive it in a couple of weeks that will hopefully enlighten these officers on how horrific that policing is. And it's certainly not limited to that jurisdiction. I see it all the time. I have a huge practice in Hamilton, a big practice in St. Catharines. And for a while with the drug squad, I had I want to say about a half a dozen cases where clients were pursued or stopped for no other reason than they were black and driving a high-end vehicle. And that became grounds for them to investigate. Why is this man driving a Mercedes, for example, at 1:00 in the morning in downtown Hamilton, with no appreciation that it doesn't matter. They can be left alone. You don't get to know why. Yeah. So I think it's very much ingrained. I think it's very real. I see it more with the police, less so with Crown attorneys, although I'm sure it's there. And certainly there are judges that we just know and are known to be racist, to the point where if I have a black client and I draw a certain judge, I will adjourn the trial before trusting that judge with my client's case. So no, it's very much real. It's prevalent. Those of us on the defense side are doing everything we can to challenge it regularly. There is a new body of case law that's being built upon that is trying to reinforce the fact that this type of policing is unacceptable in our society. So hopefully with more lawyers challenging this policing and more judges, giving these scathing condemnations of this type of behavior, we will slowly make change. But to answer your question, it's very much real and alive in the criminal justice system.
Wow. That's an eye opener. Ainsworth, has you or anybody around you been affected with the racism directly, or that you know of?
Wow. Of course, for sure. I've seen it. in terms of, I mean, it happens every day, you know, some's very overt, some's very like, you know, so how do I, it's basically how you tackle it. It makes me work harder. So even still, even working harder at the level that you may attain, you're still going to you're still going to receive that type of treatment. But I also think depends, and also in the industry that I'm in order to move forward for what a lot of things like what Richard is doing in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of, to me, racism in that non-systemic racism, that whole, you know, that whole world that's trying to help better people, like what Rich is trying to do with the Gangs for Tuition. So I feel basically it's like tackling those areas as opposed, you know, because those areas really hold a lot of strength, because that's the avenue that a lot of us go to socially. And so I think there's a lot of systemic barriers in those systems. And yeah, we are finding a way. I mean, it's unprecedented times. And so, you know, quietly, everybody thinks things are opening up, but it's unprecedented times. You know, there's a lot of dramatic things that happen to open up the eyes of a lot of individuals. So taking those into account, and then, you know, whatever level that you're in, you got to be able to spot that systemic and then being able to work harder to get around that. And that's just how I see it, you know. So there is personal, of course, there's personal things like being afraid of like somebody judging them based on where I live and being in the place. And sometimes where I live, racism is just straight. They won't even open the door if, like, sometimes I forget my fob and they'll look at me, you know what I mean? So, so yeah, they won't, but I'll sit because, you know, I mean, what are they going to do? What can I do?
Yeah,
you know, They got to open the door to leave. So I just wait, you know what I mean? So I don't really take it on. So I know it's a trap, because sometimes I do that. I go work out early in the morning, I forget my fob, and then I can't get in. So I'd be standing there and they're going to work. And so it'd be like, oh, what do I do? Do you live here? Like, what do you do? So I'm just like, oh man, I'll just wait because you got to go to work. So that's how I look at it, you know? So there is racism, but I think you take it really serious based on what you're trying to achieve, like us being here with this Gangs for Tuition. I think we look at that and then try to like push that, because as Jordana says, there's different levels that the clients are coming from that's affecting them. So I achieve what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing. And so that's my take on it.
Yeah. Wow. In your own place, your own place. They make you feel like a stranger. That's something. Jah Can, you know, you're Jamaican background, of course. Jah Can hear me? Jah Can, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay. You're, of course, of Jamaican background. Of course, you're in Canada now. You know, what's your take on racism? Is it anything you thought of? Has you experienced it since you've been here? What's been going on?
Yeah, you know, I experience it since I've been here, you know, because like the job that I'm doing now, you know, I go all over to work. So I leave from city to city, you know, and it's just government stuff. You know, so I'm in those big courthouse, I'm in those big buildings, you know, and I experience it a lot of time because I'm a people person, right? And you have a lot of times I call to even some older people, you know, they don't even look at me. They don't even acknowledge that I call to them, you know. But because I'm a people person and I love people, tomorrow I go to work, I do the same again. I still call to them tomorrow again. You know, so I don't really make it bother me that much, you know, even though I hate it. But I don't really make it bother me that much. But it's around and I experience it a lot of times, to be honest.
Okay. Wow. Hey, listen. I know that they try to sweep it under a mat, but like Tyler says and Jordana says, it's here. Racism is here,
It's here,
and
yeah.
of course, if you heard from Ainsworth, man, you would see that, you know, it's right in his own backyard, like all of our backyards, and it's an awful thing, and we've all experienced it differently. Rachel, I'm not going to leave you out of the conversation because I know you must experience it firsthand. You know, what's it? What's the feeling?
So I see it both ends, both from a personal level, but also supporting a lot of my guys on the inside.
Yeah.
Where I get phone calls on a regular basis when it comes to interactions with guards. And the comments that are made towards them. I actually had an incident not too recently, but a few months ago, where there was a guard who was actually calling them monkeys and telling them that if it was up to him, he would line them up and shoot them all. And that was something that we had to file a grievance and take it escalated all the way up. And these are things that individuals don't realize are happening directly, that a lot of the guys on the inside are facing, but because they're inside, they're limited in terms of what they can do about it. And so it's something that they're living with on a day-to-day basis. And part of us working is advocating for inmates' rights, along with other advocacy groups within the city, is being able to expose what's really going on within the institutions and bring attention to the various levels of systemic racism, many of which are very outright, that's happening that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Okay. Wow. That is, wow. Okay. Kadeen, I saved you for the last only because I'm guaranteed and sure of it that you faced it. And I think the viewers should hear firsthand how difficult it is and what is going on inside. Go ahead. It's Kadeen. Are you muted?
Here I am. I'm just rolling away. I'm just
Yeah,
rolling away.
Yeah. There you go.
But no, honestly, it's at a point where it's everywhere. It's not just inside. Inside it's bad. Like, it's really bad. I faced it inside.
Yeah.
I face it outside. I face it simply just being a black man. I face it simply because how I look, how my face is structured. Because you look at my face and you see a scar. You look at my face and you see pain. You look at my face and you see trauma. And I face it simply because of that. So honestly, it hurts. It hurts. Like, I get comments. I was playing basketball the other day, and it's just like, the incident took place and the individual was like, hey, listen, because you're black, you're tough. Because you're black, you can handle this. And I was like, what? Excuse me? Because I'm black, you know what I mean? So it's definitely something that it impacts you. It impacts you, facing it in jail. You got to go asleep with that. Like, it's cold nights. To go to sleep with racism is not nice. You know what I mean? You sleep on those thoughts, and those thoughts, you have to have a lot of self-control to basically not react.
Yeah. Listen, I just heard, Rachel give a description of something that happened inside. And, of course, we're here. We're on the outside. We don't get to hear what goes on through the corridors or behind the wall closes. We hear stories, I'm sure. Tyler has heard stories. Ainsworth has stories. Rachel has stories. Jordana has stories. And, you lived it. Is it as just bad as we think, or is it worse inside?
Personally, it's there. What I could say is it's there. Systematic racism is there. It's there inside. It's there with your interactions with correctional officers. The way how they would deal with you. I was in the kitchen for 8 months, so I always had to go and get strip searched every single time, any single movement throughout the institution. And the comments that they would say is it's just like, and you have to literally stand there and really either talk underneath your breath, like or you just gotta hug it, because if you actually say anything, if you actually do anything, they have the ability to send you to the hole, bounce you off of the range, give you some sort of disciplinary action where they could then grab their gang, and then something else could happen.
Wow, they're a gang.
So that's what it is.
Okay. Each of us, each of you all, you're all here to help Gangs for Tuition. I'd like you to give us either an idea or something either thought of or something you're actually doing that you think could help curb gang violence. I don't think we're going to stop it, but we're going to curb it. Let's start with you, Jordana.
So, I mean, one of the ways that I think we're all contributing to stopping gang violence and gun violence is by the work that we're doing with Keep6ix. First and foremost, the work that we're each doing in our own lives to try to interrupt that pattern of behavior. And that's really what I see it as, right? It's a pattern of behavior. And if we don't interrupt that cycle by giving people an exit, then we can't be surprised when the cycle continues. And so, in addition to the work that I do with Keep6ix through public speaking, one of the elements of Gangs for Tuition is whereby guidance can be provided back to the police. I provide a sort of safe passage for any firearms that are going to be turned in, both because I'm a criminal defense lawyer and a legal gun owner. So I sort of bring a unique piece to the entire program, which is only one element. But it's being a part of that. But I also have an interesting position as this lawyer that situates me to speak to university students who are entering the criminal justice system from a variety of ways. So right before this panel, I was actually on a panel hosted by Humber Law Association, where I'm speaking to undergraduate students who are looking to enter law. And what I try to do is educate on the T.R.A.P and on some of the underpinnings of gang violence, because it's not a product of quote unquote bad people, right? It's a product of people who are making bad decisions because of the circumstances they're forced into. And when you start educating people who are entering the justice system to look at it that way, then we do more to fight for those people and have them exit the system. So, one is to get them out of the system initially, and then the corollary of that is to have a program that provides an alternative, right? And that's really what Gangs for Tuition is about. It's an alternative to being in a gang in order to earn your income and have a place in the world and a place in society. Instead of being a part of a quote unquote gang, however you define it, but let's talk about, violent interactions with people, go to work, find meaningful employment, find a place within the community, and the more that we can allow people to access their potential, and everyone has that potential in a positive way, the more we're going to bring down the rates of gun violence. I don't think we're ever going to eliminate it, but most certainly we can try to interrupt that pattern.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Thank you. Tyler, listen, T.R.A.P is booming. It's a positive move. It's a great program. It's a step in the right direction. Can you give us, an idea of a method that you think would, help curb this thing? Something that maybe you're actually doing, or like, there's a process, a step, part of a program, maybe?
Yeah, sure. First, it starts with the confidence in yourself, the belief that you can actually do something different, that you're not so far deep into that life that you can't come out. That's not true. So it starts with believing in yourself, seeing yourself doing something different, believing that you could do something different. And then T.R.A.P is here to help provide you with the blueprint to do that. I myself have transitioned out of a gang lifestyle, out of an antisocial criminal lifestyle, been in and out of the system my whole young adult life. And now I'm here today in front of you as a licensed paralegal, a college professor, and now giving back through the T.R.A.P program to
Wow.
provide that blueprint that I didn't have. I didn't have a path to follow. I had to do it all on my own. So for me, it starts though with the confidence of believing you can do something different and then taking that leap towards it.
Wow. Yo, listen, congratulations. Congratulations. Hard work is paying off 100%. You know, I want to ask you, how difficult was the changing of you to leave, I guess, what you thought were friends? Because I'm getting that the fact that gangs are, when you leave a gang, it's the group of people around you are not helping you pursue, you know, to be of a different lifestyle. How difficult was that for you, Tyler, to say, you know what, I don't want to hang with these set of people anymore. I got to do this, and if I keep on this path, well, I'm going to be stuck here forever. So how difficult was it? Like, you know, it wasn't overnight, but how difficult was it?
It's very difficult, and that's something that it's a frequent question that comes up. People are always concerned about, like, what are my friends going to think, right? And initially it wasn't. I tried to bring everybody with me. I didn't make this exit on my own. I didn't want to make the exit on my own. I had a very close group of friends. We were labeled as a gang, and I provided this opportunity to everybody. Like, listen, this is the new path. This is the way I'm going. And it's funny how people are always, if I'm willing to lead them into something bad, everybody's willing to go, but nobody's willing to make that transition to a positive lifestyle. So I made the mistake of leaving that door open. I still tried to maintain contact with friends that were still up to that and still involved in that lifestyle. And it became clear very soon that I'm leaving myself at risk. And if they're not willing to come on this path with me, then I'm going to have to do it alone. And that's what I had to do. But it's done in a way where I was able to exit that life gracefully and not have skeletons in my closet. I can still hold my head high about the way that I've chose to exit that lifestyle. And I was very upfront and vocal with everybody. And I tried to have them come and pursue this opportunity with me. But there was no one that was willing to make those changes.
Wow.
So it's very hard, and you have to be prepared to do it alone. That's something that I really focus on in the program is preparing people to navigate this alone. And you really have to, I wouldn't say be selfish, but you have to put yourself first. If other people around you and your friends are what's kind of holding you back, you kind of have to look at your group of friends, and you may have to move on and leave them where they are if they're not on the same path as you.
Wow. You said something that, you know, resonated, and you have to be prepared to move on your own by yourself. That's powerful. That's a very powerful statement, and I'll keep that in mind as well. You know, Ainsworth, you're doing wonderful things. Give me an idea of what you think is a step towards curving the gang violence out there.
I think the first step is just continue what we're all doing as a group. I think just, you know, our group here, the network that I bring, the network that T.R.A.P program bring, that each one of us individually brings towards this problem or towards happening. I think that's one positive that can actually continue doing what we're doing. And also for me, and part of what we're doing here is to make education easily, and so that you can also have a skill that once you kind of come out that system, you're going to have a skill, and it's easy for you to gain that skill. So because I built this program, again, lived experience, I've been through it, you know. So at the end of the day, when I was going through it, I had to figure a way, how am I, like, what sector am I going? How am I going to work? Like, what am I really doing in terms of, yeah, I have all these skills, but how am I going to find my own lane? So I found my lane, and I figured that, you know, there's a lot more individuals behind me that have their lane that they need to find. So my part in doing what we need to do together as a group is to build this educational platform that they can use inside. And along while they're inside, they're getting that guided approach to say, here's a platform that can help you get to where you need to go. And then once they come out, it also allows them to transition. So it also allows them to transition, allows them to get jobs, allows them to have a skill. Because once you have a skill, every day you can always do something. You could, move forward. So that's the opportunity that I want to provide, and along with all the great work that everybody else is doing, just to kind of get things done together. And so, yes, the educational platform, or just being able to be on a platform that easily to be able to learn, I think it does wonders.
I'm going to stay with you here, Ainsworth, and I want to give you a scenario, and I want you to incorporate it. And I'm just going to ask you after, because there's people listening now, tuning in. They may know somebody who probably hasn't finished high school, has a police record, maybe has a job, or probably does not have a job. So, they come to your office, they knock on your door, and they say, well, here's, Billy Bob, and Billy Bob wants to change his life around, but he has nothing.
Right.
Ainsworth, can you help him? Can you help Billy Bob pursue something? He doesn't know what he wants to do, but he wants to change his life. How easy is this?
It's real easy. First, they're not knocking my door; they're sending an email, so they've kind of upped the levels in how they're going.
Okay.
And so that way, no, definitely, with all the support and wraparound support around myself, I think I definitely can help a student if we have the educational platform and speak with them, mentorship, letting them understand what direction they want to go. Is it a skill you need? Is it trades? But our platform somewhere would make it easier for you to understand where to go. And then with the wraparound support like Keep6ix, and say, where do you want to do? Do you want education? Well, here's Gangs for Tuition. They will help you to do this, and they have so much of a wraparound support that individual will be able to, somewhere along the line, is going to find themselves or like closer to what they need to do. So this whole program with everybody as a team, I think it just works better. So that's the idea. I come in and I'll say, hey, is it digital you want? Is it video, graphics, web, IT? Here's how we're going to mentor you in this way. And if it's something else, here's Keep6ix, but we're all working together. So along the way, we just bounce each other's names across. And then I think that's the way we can help.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Kadeen, you're looking at getting released, and like so many others who are done their time and they're coming out, whether they spent, I don't care, a day, a month, a year, it doesn't matter. They're coming out now, and their life wants to change, but this is the life they've always known, and it always kind of lead them into a problem. How difficult is it when the doors open and you're getting released, whatever, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you're walking to outside? What is your first step? What is your first thought process? What is your thing to say, am I going to be able to turn my life around and help curb gun violence? Because not many of them, if any, are walking out the door thinking of that. I mean, you've made the change. What's the process to that?
Let me make sure. Yeah, I'm gonna say it like this, and Ty just said it. You have to visualize yourself there. You have to literally be like, this is who I was, and here's change. And you got to visualize change, and you got to run to the change. If you don't visualize it, then you're not gonna begin the steps to walk there. That's the first thing. Secondly, you have to actually want to do it. So you have to actually want to change. In terms of gun violence, I believe that more programs like Keep6ix, more programs like T.R.A.P program. I was a participant of the T.R.A.P program. I love T.R.A.P program. I honestly do. I love it. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Keep6ix, for that, because that made a big impact on my life and how I view life right now. And when I look back at, when I look back at all the small steps that were actually big victories that were taught through T.R.A.P program, it made me really realize that, hey, listen, I've been holding a skill that I didn't even know I was holding. And lo and behold, here was Keep6ix T.R.A.P program, and they just honed in on my skill and they just opened my mind. Boom.
Yeah.
And here you go, Kadeen. Go. So in terms of gun violence, you know, coming from it, if you want to actually change and move forward, you have to do it. It has to be within. It's easy to get up and pick up a gun and walk with a gun. You know, it's easy to do that. People could do that, but it's harder to change. It's harder to say, listen, I'm gonna put this behind me. I'm gonna put this behind me. I'm gonna leave this alone and move forward because I know that there's a brighter place at the end of the tunnel.
Okay. All right. Rachel, listen, it Keep6ix, and T.R.A.P and crew, and Jordana is so important to society right now. As much as I didn't know about each individual here, and I'm learning so much and listening to them talk, and I realize how more important they are for our society and for our generations. You have calls, Rachel, from inside, of course, and you've talked to many's, and you've had to, make connections. I'm going to ask you this: do you think, and let's just stick with the Canadian justice system and the Canadian prisons. Do you think they're rehabilitating?
No, by no means. But before I even go into that, I do want to take a step back just to explain a little bit more about Gangs for Tuition. I know we've been speaking about it, but for some who might not know the full sort of wraparound when it comes to Gangs for Tuition. So T.R.A.P being one of the mandatory programs, again, Transition Recidivism Action Plan, a 6-week module where individuals are really able to identify recidivism factors, identify their own transferable skills that they hold, and have the supports needed to have a more positive lifestyle. From there, individuals have access to various employment services. If they're interested in digital media, we've got Crew Space. If they're interested in the trades, we're partnered with quite a few of the local unions when it comes to construction trades and carpentry. Currently, we've also partnered with Elevate Talent in terms of having individuals get into the corporate and tech sector, which is an area that we know a lot of criminalized individuals do not have access to. I saw a couple of questions related to partnership with police. And this is something I wanted to speak on specifically and be very clear about. So we are not partnered with the police. Peel Regional Police does support our program. Specifically, we have the community engagement team within Peel Regional Police who has supported it, which are community officers that are more providing alternative resources. So for individuals that they come in contact with, they have the ability to refer individuals that they come in contact with to us. As an alternative resource. However, we are not partnered with the police by any means. We're not getting financial backing by the police or anything to that regard. And I think that's something that we need to make sure is very, very clear, because we know there's a lack of trust when it comes, especially when individuals in marginalized communities hear of involvement with police. And that's something also within T.R.A.P as well, in terms of making sure that there's a safe space for individuals to be able to speak and not have that fear that certain things they say are going to be brought back to their parole officers or brought back to other authorities or individuals. So that's just a little bit of a synopsis in terms of what Gangs for Tuition is as a whole, because I did see quite a few questions with regards to the educational piece and other areas within it. When we look at the prison system, I myself am a huge prison and police abolitionist, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that we're not seeing rehabilitation. We are seeing high rates of recidivism in many institutions, and a lot of it comes down to a lack of programming. When you ask the question when it comes to how do we reduce gang violence or gun violence, well, where that comes from when we say defund the police, it's not completely eradicate them, but it's taking some of that funding and putting it back into the community when it comes to education, when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to housing, when it comes to multiple other sectors that right now, especially marginalized communities, are lacking. And so when you grew up in communities where you have a lack of resources, then your alternatives in terms of how you're able to provide for your family are very limited. And so that's sort of where we come in to sort of build that community and build that village in terms of really speaking to working together as a community to provide support for one another. When I get calls from guys within the institutions right now, let's speak to COVID. There's been a lack of programming within the institution. And that it has directly impacted a lot of individuals being able to be approved for parole or being approved for early release due to the fact that they don't have access to that programming. We know that there's a lack of Afrocentric or cultural programming for a lot of people of color as well. Mental health programs. In 2007, Stephen Harper pulled, was it 2007 or 2017? Stephen Harper pulled a lot of the funding that was going to prisons. A lot of the mental health supports that were being provided were also pulled. So when you speak about putting individuals into a prison system or putting them in human cages, as I like to call them, you're not rehabilitating someone. If anything, you're doing the opposite. And so that's why I speak very openly about prison abolition and why we need to look at what the alternative resources are to that. That's part of why Gangs for Tuition is something that is very passionate for me, and why I work specifically with my guys to develop that relationship where they have individuals that they can reach out to, be it myself, be it Tyler, be other individuals, Kadeen being himself wanting to be a mentor, individuals that they can reach out to and feel free to be able to openly express themselves when it comes to these things, because it's someone that can relate with them on a certain level, where in other areas or areas, they might open up to their PO and the next thing they know, they're violated because of something that they've said. And so I think it's really important that we as a community work together to build those safe spaces for these individuals.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to wrap it up real soon because everybody has a lot of things to do, and we got to make sure that all these programs get out. But before we go, Jordana, I like, from I met Jordana, she's been so easy to work with, easy to get along with. She offers every amount of advice that you possibly want, with whatever you need. How important is Gangs for Tuition, Jordana, to the health and the well-being of the community and those incarcerated that are coming out? How important is this program?
I think it's essential. That's how important I would deem it. I would deem it an essential missing component in the criminal justice system. There is this belief, which is a fallacy, that the probation and parole system offers rehabilitation and reintegration programs, and they simply do not. Right now, we have a system of catch and release and supervision. And so there is a huge gap that would actually facilitate successful exit from the system, which is missing. So, help with trauma, identifying transferable skills, life skills, job training, everything that this program is trying to provide to individuals attempting to exit the system in a successful manner is exactly what is lacking in the system, and what those of us who have to answer questions from the public about recidivism talk about. We have these high rates of recidivism that everyone complains about. And, how did this guy with a criminal record get bail? And why is someone being released when they're already on charges? And why are they back in the system? And the general public does not appreciate all of the underlying issues involved in criminality and gang violence specifically. And it is those underlying issues and sort of the absence of life skills and job training that this program is attempting to bridge the gap on, in order to ensure that offenders can leave the system. Because if you don't have a meaningful source of employment, you have no choice but to return to criminal activity because you got to feed yourself. It's the basics of life that are not provided and taught and nourished as a youth that need to be supplemented as an adult in order to successfully leave the system. And it's that component that Gangs for Tuition is trying to provide.
Okay. All right. Um, you know, I've just met Tyler, like the rest of the world right now. Runs a dominant program. It works. We have proof right here tonight that it does work. T.R.A.P, Keep6ix, Gangs for Tuition. Tyler, what do we need to do to make T.R.A.P, Keep6ix, Gangs for Tuition, what we're doing here, expand?
So it starts with this, just generating like awareness and knowledge of it and getting the information out and available. And I think it needs to start in the institution. Like Rachel was saying, we need this specific type of programming. I mean, T.R.A.P is geared towards a very specific type of person that's, kind of deeply involved in that criminal lifestyle and how to transition out of it. And it should start in the institution before being released. And I've been refused entry into like the Toronto South. I can't run any programming in the South. I've tried. I did the volunteer orientation, and due to my history, I'm not allowed in. So they're missing that piece, because you can bring somebody, and I'll use Kadeem's words himself about trying to bring in somebody with a criminology PhD does not understand what's really going on. They don't understand how to get out of the lifestyle, the day-to-day things that people face. I personally found myself close to 30 years old with a grade 8 education and no work history. And I've now graduated college, become a paralegal, and built a work history. So I can teach somebody how to go to school with no education. I can teach somebody how to build a resume with no work history. I've done it myself. And that's what's needed. And to be an example, to actually make somebody believe that, look, yeah, if he could do it, I could do it. And have them believe in themselves and really create like a network of individuals like Kadeem. Kadeem is so well spoken. He was such an asset to the program, and seeing the way that like even he flourished and the confidence he's building in himself throughout it. And it's so rewarding to actually see how effective it is on individuals, and have him now like transitioning and looking to give back and do the same. Like Kadeem's definitely going to be facilitating programs with me. He's going to be coming on as a guest and things like that, because he's an example of how it's really worked. And I think it needs to start sooner. It needs to be available in the institutions. If they're really concerned or really want to make a change, you have to get to the people that are so far gone, that are so deep into that life. The essentially what people will call the OGs of the neighborhood, where those are who the kids are looking up to. Those are who they're following. Those are who they're emulating. So if you can reach those individuals and have those individuals now, the words are coming from their mouth, the people in their neighborhood are going to listen. The people who actually listen to it coming from somebody like that they've idolized and said, you know what, I've already found out myself, this ain't it. It's time to get out of this lifestyle from now. This is what we're doing. We're going to school. We have workshops. Like I teach guys about how to get into college as a mature student. A lot of people, when they come out and they're released, they're going to Ontario Works for financial assistance and things like that. And they're just going to try and run you into an adult school to go do a GED program. And that's it. You don't have to do that. You can go directly to college as a mature student. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that you can get OSAP if you have bad credit. None of that stuff matters. But there's all these misconceptions in the communities that that's not for me, that's for them, that'll never be for me. And that's not true. And I help like lead people to access that information and help like build skills and build a resume from nothing. We may have to do some volunteering and work on your transferable skills, but we're going to help you like develop something on paper.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think it needs to start sooner. It needs to start inside of the institutions, and then have a wraparound support plan for them once they're out, so they can continue on that path. Because it's true what they say about like the idle time or idle hands. It's very true. We need to keep them involved, and it has to be done authentically. It can't come from just anybody. It has to come from somebody that they believe it. It's true. It's real. It's verifiable. And the saying it's real, recognized real. It's a true thing. Like people can tell if you're authentic or not, or if you're, just talking out of the side of your face and you're not true about it. People can tell. I'm not here trying to build my resume or to get like accolades for it. I'm here because I care and I want to share like my knowledge to help people.
Yep. Understood. I think you hit the nail right there. I think these programs should have been inside the institution yesterday. I really do. I think the government needs to look at this.
It's unfortunate, but if you have a problem with domestic violence, there's a program for you. If you're an alcoholic, there's a program for you. If you do drugs, there's a program for you. If you're a sexual offender, there's a program for you. But there's nothing for a gang member. There's nothing for somebody who's been involved in violence or selling drugs their whole life, who's deep into that life. There's nothing for them. There's nothing specific.
Yeah. We need these programs ASAP. ASAP. I hope the government's listening. That they will, though. Ainsworth, how do we out here get your voice louder? I mean, you talk, we listen, but the community needs to be involved a lot more into what you bring. You bring an educational masterpiece here. How do we get involved? How does someone, get to you to say, yo, we need this louder. We need this bigger.
I agree with you too. We do need this bigger. I think basically it's just working with Gangs for Tuition, programs like this, programs live stream just like this, just to get the word out to other individuals who are not there. And so now I get an opportunity to say if they want to contact us and see what we're doing, you just go to Keep6ix.com. It's built for this reason, to make education more accessible. And then when I say education, there's 6 different categories of education that we want to deliver in terms of giving everybody a shot in terms of what's heading towards the future. And this was designed around how I made it. You know what I mean? Like how I had to avoid certain things to see that, hey, you're not going to get the job because you have a record or something like that nature. I've seen those physically as emails, but I had the skills. So I went to school, I had the skills. And at the end of the day, I was able to maneuver those skills, but I still had to be able to make a living for myself without getting caught in the whole trap. And in terms of how the system is set up. So I had to use all the skills that I had. And eventually, I was very fortunate in terms of the community seeing the value. So I think now it's like there is a value to our program. There's a value that we could bring to the individuals. There's a value that we could bring to the youth organizations. There's a value. So it opens up more of easily accessible so everyone can be able to move ahead. How the community hears about it is just us doing it one day at a time, me doing what I need to do, we as an organization working together do what we need to do in terms of marketing. And again, opening it up to the higher levels that make decisions financially that can help you move forward. So we can sit here and we can fight all along and we can move together, but we still need the financial backings that could happen. And so I think like even Keep6ix, I think they would look more at the business structure and they'll look more at this and they'll look more at all these negative things instead of saying, hey, Keep6ix is actually doing the work. Why don't they just like, okay, then we'll help them get their structure together. So there's those little things that, where they'll give it to another larger organizations who just came together, but they can't really do anything, but they get the push to market what it is that they're doing. And then there's no numbers at the end of it. You know what I mean? So there's no numbers to show how many people came to this program. There's no numbers to show anything. So I think it's a group effort to kind of tackle systemically what's trying to hold us back from helping. And then individually, we all have to not take it so personal and then kind of like move together, do what T.R.A.P is doing, do what Keep6ix is doing, and then, bless what Jordana is doing to actually fight and keep moving forward. So I think how I get out is just being part of this team and then being part of the, like what was marketed here today and then they'll hear more about what we're doing. And then I can tell you, go to crewspace.com, or you could just contact me through Keep6ix. I can put my email on here, but I'm still having some technology problems how to use it. So
don't worry, we got Rachel for
on the
that.
message
We
side.
got Rachel. We have Rachel for that. Rachel. Look at her.
Yeah, so
Don't
that's
worry.
basically it, man. I thank you
We're,
guys so much. That's it. That's
we're,
basically
going
it.
to get it out there. We're going to get it out there. Jah Can is the first artist of Keep6ix Records. We're gonna when we're leaving. I'm hoping the host of the whole media outlet here could let the song play. We're not gonna let it play now, but while we're exiting, we'll let it play. But Jah Can, just for your input, musically, what do you want to say to the world of how you're going to be able to make this a bigger voice, Keep6ix Gangs for Tuition, a bigger voice in the world, especially in the world of music? Wonder if I could hear him.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, he's muted, right? Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah,
We can.
that's it
There
now.
you go.
It's, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't know.
yeah.
I'm a part. Yeah, you hear me now clearly, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, well,
clearly.
I'm a part of Keep6ix, right? Yeah, and I'm continuing to focus, and push forward with positive stuff, trying to help Keep6ix educate the younger generations, so that's where I want to be. That platform I want to be, and where a younger generation can look up to me and say, yo, Jah Can sing positive music, and we can learn by what he say, because entertainers can educate the world. It's not just like teachers and other bigger heads, entertainers can help educate the world. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, what can help change the world, Keep6ix is doing a good thing, by helping out the younger ones, but I still believe it comes from the home, the parenting. You have to learn how to treat your kids from they're young. You can't push your kids out there too early. You have to try to help to educate your kids. You understand? Those things are a big platform and the violence that's going on in the world right now. The kids need more educated from their parents at home. Not only the schools, not only people on the road, the parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to
Okay.
educate
All
their
right.
kids. Yeah,
Respect.
man.
Respect.
For real.
I saved Kadeen for the final, and I did this because if you hear everybody around Kadeen, from Tyler, Rachel, Jordana, Jah Can, Ainsworth, Kadeen, you are a part of everybody here. Keep6ix, T.R.A.P, Jordana, Rachel, Jah Can, Ainsworth, crew. How important is what Keep6ix, the Gangs for Tuition, T.R.A.P, how important was that for your life, and how can it affect someone else's life?
I mean, where I got out of jail March 4th, and where I am today, I from getting out of jail from March 4th till now, I mean, sky's the limit. And that's simply because I had all of these organizations like T.R.A.P, like Keep6ix, like Gangs for Tuition, and they literally like helped propel me. And that was like a collective thing. That was literally like a collective movement. And the mentorship and the development, that was key as well. So it's not like you just go through this program for 6 weeks and then you're just out like a strayed sheep. No, you go through this program and then you still have resources. You still have that support system and that network. And that support system is so important to an individual seeking the product of change.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's what
Thank
it
you.
is, no problem.
I don't know if you all have known, but we've been sitting here for an hour and a half talking about it. I don't know if you all have known that, but
It doesn't even
it was
feel that
so
long.
it was so, you know, knowledgeable to hear every aspect of what Gangs for Tuition brings. And if you notice, every single panel member has something to give. Every single panel member has something that they represent to try and help this generation to the next generation. They are not leaving anybody out. They're just trying to do what they can. And I want this to the ears of the government, the ears of the people, the ears of those in the courthouses, in the law firms, those in the schools and the universities, and those at home, to understand how important Gangs for Tuition is. The accolade, the members that they're aligned with. I mean, you have a top notch criminal defense lawyer, one of the best in the world right here. You have, Tyler, who has basically gone from, hard life to not easy street, but trying to make it so he could help other people make it. You have, Ainsworth, who's here helping people, making sure the education is a key factor. You have Jah Can, who's giving you a musical, alignment, entertainment. You have Rachel, who keeps us, cemented and liberated, I guess I would say, in some form of just, the knowledge that she has, and how she, perceives everything to make everything seem so okay. I know she does it. It's not right sometimes, but it's Rachel's just smooths it out to say, okay, it's going to be okay. She gives you that confidence. And, Kadeem, of course, is a living example of how all of these attributes make one. I mean, it's just fabulous. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight and for taking the time. I know we extended time. I know it was supposed to be an hour, but I was just like listening and so in tune to hearing what, this is my first time hosting. Plus, I want to be on TV a lot more, but that's. But if there's any final words, Rachel, we'll start with you. Number one.
One, I just want to thank again all of our panelists for coming on. I want to thank all of our viewers who've been on and seeing all of your comments. Thank you so much for the engagement. If you do have anyone who you'd like to refer, or you yourself would like to partake within the Gangs for Tuition program, there is an intake form on our website, www.keep6ix.org. Or you can send us an email at info@keep6ix.org, and either myself or somebody else from the team will be in touch with you in terms of our partners. Again, so many different partners when it comes to digital media, CureTV, CureSpace, Local 183, our Carpenters Union, Elevate Talent, T.R.A.P, of course. A huge shout out to Tyler. It's been a journey, but it's been an amazing journey working with Tyler and really seeing the progress. And I'm honestly very excited to see the continued success of the program. Kadeen has been an inspiration working with him as well. And I just want to thank everybody for their input and their time today, but also throughout as we launch Gangs for Tuition.
There you go. Thank you. Jordana?
I just want to thank everyone who's tuned in and is hearing about Keep6ix and hearing about each of our journeys for the first time. And I hope that you generate conversation from this, because as much as it's necessary to help individuals, informing the general public to understand these issues and foster compassion and foster an understanding of the T.R.A.P, of the criminal justice system, is really what is going to affect change on a mass scale. So, it's phenomenal that we're able to help individuals, but if we can take that message on a broader scale, you'll see change developing more quickly. So I want to thank everyone for being a part of tonight, and I want to thank Keep6ix and DJ Wiz for having me on the show.
Thank you. Jah Can, any final
Yeah,
words?
well, yeah, man, I just want to say a big respect to Keep6ix, for continue doing the good work, and I want to bless up everyone on the program tonight. DJ Wiz, may I have to bless you up. I want to say a special bless up to Kadeen, you've been there, youth, you hold the faith,
Mm,
and you're still on the road, and you're not giving up. Only if I
thank you,
respect you,
sir.
continue the journey. See?
Mm,
Yeah, man, blessing.
cool, Jah Can.
Yeah,
Ainsworth.
man, blessing.
Yes. I'm just I appreciate Keep6ix inviting me. So I think just being part of the panel, just seeing Rich starting this program like a couple years ago, just thinking, doing meetings, all those kind of things, and just to still be a part of it and to help out and help as many people as I can. I think this program, the future is this program. Individually, it is this program. So if we have this sector and we're trying to help, let's continue and let's spread the word. If everybody out there globally and locally, they hear about this, they know somebody that could, use this program. So they can spread the word that way and just be in a sense of like, here's our wraparound. They don't have to do much. They don't have to know much. They just got to say Keep6ix.
Keep6ix. Keep6ix. Thank you. Appreciate you. Tyler.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody on the panel. To say personally, what's up, Slowly? How you doing, brother? Jah Can, nice to meet you tonight. Kadeen,
Blessing.
man. Jordana and Rachel. It's been a pleasure. Same with you, Wiz. Thanks for putting this on. Thank you to Richard and Opal at Keep6ix. And really just to everybody listening. Now's the time to take advantage of it. If you have somebody that you think could benefit from the program, there's an opportunity now through Gangs for Tuition where your program is funded for you. I'm not sure if that was clear to everybody. You can sign up and join the T.R.A.P program through Gangs for Tuition, and your fees are covered through that program. So now is the time to take that leap, to get involved. And really, my goal is to push this program. It should be recognized by the courts towards offenders sentencing. This should be something along the lines with the PARS program for domestic violence, where a completion certificate from the T.R.A.P program should actually hold weight in the eyes of the courtroom for people's parole, for probation, and towards sentencing, because this is an effective program, and we are helping change the mentality of people who are institutionalized.
Listen, a big respect to you, Tyler. Big respect for the life changing and just letting us be a part of your life. Big respect to everybody on the panel, for us to, us on the outside, just, being invited to be a part of your life. And we're not going to leave you out, Kadeen. Kadeen, you have the final say. We're not leaving you out, bro.
Oh, man. Well, personally, DJ Wiz, thank you for putting this on. Everybody on the panel, T.R.A.P program, Ainsworth, I love you, man. I barely got to speak to you, but I've got to see how much work you're putting in, and I love that, Jah Can, you done know already, King. Go on with the music, go on with the vibe, go on with the vibration then, because the positivity create unity. You see me? Jordana, I love your mask. I love that. Who judges the judge? It's so political. Everywhere I go, it's just like, who judges the judge? Look at that man. I have honestly a 50-50 split. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Rachel, it's always a pleasure working with you. Catch you at the farm. Like, that has changed my life. That one day has changed my life. And that's what I'm talking about. That mentorship, that development, that is key. You sometimes you don't get that out of a PhD. You get that from experience. You literally get that from experience. So that's something that policymakers should effectively see. That's what I want to say. Thank you for having me. And sky's the limit to this program.
Sky's the limit. Listen, I want to thank you all once again. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm hoping that this is not the only time we meet. I hope we meet again. I hope we have, another stream like this. And I'm sure I'm sure Richard will bother us for the rest of our lives to make sure that we keep doing this at maybe hopefully once a month. But listen, we got to give our hats off to Mr. Richard Miller, our hats off to the Keep6ix organization. I want the people to be able to go. You want all this information, go to www.keep6ix.org and you'll get all the information. And if you don't have it there, I'm sure there's something there that will lead you to people that could give you the answers to the questions that you have asked. It's been my pleasure and an honor, and I hope I'm blessed. God gives me the life to be here once again, to be amongst another great set of panelists. I appreciate every one of you. I want to thank you all for this evening. Go home, stay blessed. All right?
Blessing.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Just wanted to send a quick message out to acknowledge the fantastic work that Keep6ix.org is doing for youth in our region, especially the Gangs for Tuition initiative.
After working in children's mental health for almost 20 years, I've worked with young people who feel that the only way to deal with past trauma, feed, clothe, or shelter themselves or their family is through a life of gang activity.
We need to address the underlying causes of why individuals get involved in gangs and create opportunities for growth and development. This program will open the door to positive and meaningful pathways for youth.
Gangs for Tuition strives to support young people to make better choices for a positive lifestyle by providing training and transferable skills.
We're collaborating with the Keep6ix organization to provide opportunities for youths, adults in the region of Peel.
T.R.A.P stands for the Transition and Recidivism Action Plan. As we know, there's been an increase in violence in the streets of Toronto. T.R.A.P was created to fill the void for those underserved and overrepresented in the criminal justice system. Individuals can now enroll in the T.R.A.P program through the Keep6ix Gangs for Tuition initiative.
I met Richard approximately 2 years ago, and he shared with me his idea and vision to address the underlying causes of gangs and to provide education and skill development to individuals that want to exit the gang lifestyle.
The reality of gangs and guns is that addressing root causes can change outcomes for youth at risk and people who are looking to rehabilitate with wraparound supports.
And a lot of those that are facilitating this program are individuals that are real, authentic, organic mentors who've gone through similar experiences and are able to relate on a personal level. And I think that's what really makes the Gangs for Tuition program so much more unique.
Many people have worked tirelessly to put this program together so that the youth in our community can have a chance at a brighter future.
This program is possible because of a collaborative effort between multiple community partners in various areas like mental health, social reintegration, and employment services.
With the help of Peel Police, we are proud to support the launch of Gangs for Tuition, an initiative by Keep6ix aimed at changing the trajectory of the lives of those whose path has been rocky.
We've taken the time to support our youth and young men and women, to build them to be a positive role model in our community. We have to come together and work as a team. Come and join us for the launch of Keep6ix Gangs for Tuition program.
Like it literally spoke for itself. Yeah, it was kind of a trap takeover still.